Each tribe, we give thanks, we give honor and gratitude for the light, for the balance, for the wholeness. I thought I would take some time to sit with ritual and or ceremony, and what that means to us, especially in generational fashion, and what we're looking to bring back to this place, right? Yeah. To reveal the true essence of what the ritual and the ceremony is. More so also tapping into that lineage, that step to past lives. I think one thing that we tend to overlook and is that we also have set in our foundation, if we are our ancestors and if indeed we have been here before, we've set path for us in past lives to pick up and to conjure and to go within this life. So it is very important to have that ancestral bond. It's just that family and that tribe bond, but on a spirit level, they can do and see things that we may have not learned to see and or manifest on this plane. So that tie, that relationship is important. And it also brings us to our remembrance of past life, our intent, and what's the whole set of our frequency here. Like they say, you are who you are before you get here. It's very important to remember that, because we get so caught up in the intent of the vessel and the body that we have not made way, we have not made foundation for the actual frequency and the spirit to know how to move, which is why we usually come back in such a disarray or a sense of confusion or detachment, because our senses are greatly tied to the vessel. Yeah. So this one is about digging deep. I actually want to go into my book of spells and things of that yawa, that nature. You see that? Whenever I flip through it in my own kind of leisure time, I come across such jewels. And I did come across, like it was speaking to me, very much on an ancestral plane, just to what ceremony is and what I do to connect to the ancestors, because that's such a broad scope, right? Some of us, especially for the melanated breed, our mind goes to a very set culture, whether we believe it to be African or Native American or of some type of indigenous touch. But have you not seen yet how the collective, how we all encompass the one? We really do. It's just about where you're laid out on the meridian fields, where you're laid out on the grid. So all of us have ceremony in this culture, in this God body culture, and we all have something to learn. All the codes weren't put in one place. They were scattered for us to find, for us to prove our means of way and our worth, to see such codes, to see such power and magnificence. So I'm going to start for what is ceremony is. This is my definition of ceremony. Ceremony is a state of being, a state of experience, container of being, encounters with altered states, meaningful consciousness. Ceremony, if chose to bettering senses of self or explain more difficult or unexplained sides of self. So again, ceremony is a state of being, a state of experience, container of being, encountering with altered states. Meaningful consciousness. Ceremony, if chose to bettering senses of self or explain more difficult or unexplained side of self. As ancestral offerings for altar. when going to the ancestors with this space. So that is a point of what ceremony is. Yeah. Now, when people tend to go into ceremony, into ritual, sometimes, or at least even with myself, I felt like a big production needed to be made way in order to reflect my deep sense of either pride or honor or whatever I sent forth to, loyalty I sent forth to the spirits, to the spirit guides, to the divine. But it's always a very simple task. You can just eyes open, eyes closed. Ceremony and ritual is done from this space, from that heart center space, yeah, that heart over mind space, that space, you know, where there's not any words, that space of 0 point where you connect with the divine. If you would like to, however, certain things. That's what I was looking for. I think I wanted to speak definitely more to the space of ancestors, right? I feel if you are this new breed culture, you know, coming up, a lot of Black, Hispanic, just melanated families, especially who live, there's this big division between North and the South. You understand? So the North would send their secrets down to the South, and the South would send their secrets up to the North, and we would lose a lot of translation as to what is family, as to what is lineage and family ties. But I'm also finding that there's, because of the layers, there's layers of trauma that we constantly try to put down as family units, and in that layering, in that burying, we have actually buried our ancestors. We've buried that connect with our ancestors. So just typically like me, and I can say those growing up around me, you know, I grew up, I was baptized, you know, kind of typical Black household. You know, you either claim one, it can be Baptist, it can be Catholic, it can be Jehovah Witness, it can be I forget, but you know, they were still very basic in our lines and our lineage when it came to religion and spirituality. And but we picked up that culture and we governed it very well. We held it very close to heart, and with that, we lost a lot of stories, a lot of lineage. So I'll give you a very personal example from my family. On my father's side, there was a great tribe of sisters. And the great tribe of sisters, from what I know of, are a survival of 13 women from the South. And I knew maybe intimately half of these women who actually made their way to the North, and they had that close knit up here. But to hear the stories of how they mended people and families, how there was a cemetery in the backyard where babies who maybe didn't survive a birth and things like that made it. And then there was always this undertow. There was this undertow of energy. There were people that you knew about, but we dare not speak their name, or just a strong tie to try to claim something in this day and age was to sweep whatever was before it under. So I lost a lot of secrets if I wasn't paying attention closely to the bowls of waters that went underneath the beds, to the flippings of the beds, to the soakings of the foods, to, you know, these remedies, to the touching of the hands just to ail a body. I may have lost a lot of unspoken truths, a lot of unspoken secrets. So for me, ancestral tie is very important. It's important, one, because I've been having lots of reveals of past lives in that space. And it's also been made known to me that I have a great, powerful, honorable, and benevolent, ancient spirit body that walks with me. So because of that, and because of me wanting to honor the mother and the father, honor that lineage, that ancestral call or code is very important to me. But what I've had to let go is the thought of what that might be, because it's been brought to me that it's a very broad span, it's very deep and ancient, and I'm here to reflect it in a new right and a new light. But being honorable and benevolent to my ones, I do seek connection, and these are some of the means in which I go by connecting to my lineage of ancestors. One go here. Mommy. So that back there behind me is my altar. We don't really show that in too much detail, even though I have before. On my altar, this is actually a new white candle. This candle, I tend to burn a white candle on behalf of my ancestors on my altar. And I also leave things that are very direct for some ancestors. So, for example, I know my father is an ancestral spirit that walks with me. My father partakes of herbal essence, so I actually leave a nugget of that there for him. Libations by means of ginseng liqueur, just a bit on my altar as well. And whenever I have either I go outside and I forage fresh things, and or I have fruits and things, I leave that upon my altar as well. And the reason for that being is whenever you're calling on spirits, whenever you're calling on that frequency, energy is needed to exchange. Excuse me, I don't know why this is getting so much louder. I know, right? Okay, there we go. Energy is needed. Energy is needed to exchange for the frequency that you're asking to come in. Even though you don't see the vessel, we are requesting for that energy level to come in. And if we do not have frequency by way of either live foods and or foraged things from Mother Nature, Mama Natu herself, and or things of their likings, the energy that they are going to take from is actually going to be directly from your source. And we don't want that. So sometimes you may find yourself becoming a bit more tired in your exchange of ceremony, or you may find little mishaps that happen here and there, and it usually is because the exchange of energy hasn't been given so that spirit can come through strong and divinely. So that is somewhat of the speak to my altar, but again, tapping directly into that ancestral lineage and that spirit space. This is a white candle. The white kind of represents that purity, that originality, that original, that origins line. And I actually have my initials and my birth date carved into the candle. I kind of just took a pen and I just wrote directly into that. It's because this is the thing. You may not be as familiar with your ancestors, but your ancestors know you, right? So how by way would you leave your marking? How by way would you leave your calling? They know that you are not familiar with your way. They know that in this lifetime, you are also seeking out your nature, your rememberings, and things of such like that. And when you come into that lifespan in your life where you find the tools in which to call, summons, they've been here since the beginning, and they tend to be extremely simple and easy means. And as you become more master of your craft, you're always master. Don't you ever let anyone tell you that you are not master. It's just the levels in which we ascend into, yeah? Because if not, that takes away your power, and we ain't got time for that. So another means in which to tie this candle into, it depends on how deep you want to go. I would also recommend you can do this by a couple of different means of exchange. You could take 3 drops of blood and drop it here into the candle. The blood is a hard marker of your lineage, of your ancestral line, and you can put it within the candle. That is a very deep mark that will call that line in very direct on tap. You can also use hair or any other bodily fluids to include into this. It's all your DNA markers. Understood? But that's something I would definitely do more in my own kind of sacred space. I definitely believe in sharing, especially as I go, but certain things hold such a imprint of energy and sanction of self, that again, I do believe that's something that should be shared, or should be done, not so much, it should be done in the sacred space of you, spirit, and the divine. So again, a white candle with your marker of your birth date and your initials on it. And again, you can include blood is the highest form of mark on here. Of blood, a couple of drops. I would say 3 is a great marker. Hair would probably be the next best of exchange, and or any bodily fluids. Feel your manifest claim through your fields. Now, on a personal note, my ancestors have been made known to me usually when I go to prayer, when I go to altar, when I have those very quiet, mindful moments to the self. You'd be surprised how things will speak to you through song, very unconventional ways. You will know. You may not even be able to confirm it or speak it to someone else's to their belief, but you will know that spirit has planted that directly in your path for you to know. I've been coming into a lot of past life energies. I currently live in Harlem, New York City, which spirit has had me coin as my Mecca for over 7 years now, and I've had flashes of past lives, just kind of walking this village, and I've realized that I've come here, I've been here many times before in this space. It's actually a grid that activates me, and I in turn activate it. So we are very symbiote upon one another, me and my village. So my learnings, my works, my exchange is very much kind of rooted in this place, whether I'm here and or abroad. I've tethered my existence to many tribes beforehand. I've tethered my place to place of, I've always been mystic. I've always been shaman. I've always been healer. I've always been Abalosi. I've always been that of power and somewhat forbidden energy. I've always been. I also travel with a very distinct soul tribe. I have an intimate number of lovers, and because they are quite limited, they come through very scarcely throughout my lifetime. I tend to be a very independent and stealth soul for the most part, and my connections are extremely potent. My connections are extremely potent. A lot of my physical works, a lot of my mind and body works comes from a tantric place. And tantric is no more, as a tantrika, is no more than technology. Knowing the technology of the vessel, knowing its points of meridian, knowing its touch, knowing how to control its climax and its decline, how to elongate in all spectrums, from the mental world to the sensual, to the senses, to the sexualities of all reveals. Ancestral calls to past lives, soul representatives, ask for a sign of what is. Vibration, roots, and harmony, masters. Yes, please, Spirit, bring forth my spirituality for all humanity. Seeker of soul wisdom in the in-between place of physical and spiritual. I am the master there. I am the guardian there. And I am the master and guardian between the physical and the spiritual. I always have been. I've always been mystic. I always will be. Call on your ancestors. Call on them. They are with you always, like a parent who is there and say, if you need my help, call me. And really come through. Really be there for you, want to be there for you. That energy of existence is still in play, family. And this is the time, especially for my mighties. We've been in a place for way too long of space, so it actually is our time. It is our time that whatever we ask for will be granted and set forth upon us, because the time is ours. I'm looking for something very specific. Well, when definitely when revealing essence and our true essence, certain things that you can do to kind of prep before ritual is to clear your mind. I know we speak a lot about meditations. I am not one to sit still when it comes to meditation, or at least my level is not to that yet. You know, we are a new breed culture, so a lot of our existence is kind of rooted and planted in the stimulation of movement. So I tend to find my meditations arise best. My tap with source is either when I'm walking the Mecca and or just kind of dancing, moving, stretching here within my own space. So clearing your mind. Meditation clears space to receive what you're asking. You understand? I know it can be challenging to receive downloads when you are a Mecca baby, when you are someone who comes from this urban lifestyle. But we have learned different modalities, different ways in which to find our peace. Our peace is definitely different. Sometimes we get it by gauge of headphones and music. Music is usually our frequency to tune in and to tune out. Yeah? Yeah. So find your place that when you are zoned in that place, you are open to receiving messages that are meant for you. That are meant for you. Yeah. Libations, candles, and fire. If you have the comfort to do ritual in your home, I tend to do ritual in plain sight, which is outside, and I love that as well. But the frequency signature of libations, which can be anywhere from water frequency to an actual spirit, if you will, the frequency signature allows you to better connect with spirits that you're working with. It represents energy, colors, days, let me see, areas, and communication. So fire has fire, it has that red signature, which is that place of movement, of passion, of ignite. I've been speaking to that lately because I have been activated into that fold of passion, activation, movement, and ignite. So fire, it has always been something that I've actually been quite fond of. It's a great place to actually, if you do want to find yourself still, to meditate. Fire is a great focal point to pull from, to draw from, to settle in. Libations to the spirits, just like yourself, they thirst for the frequency. So that is offering that we give, that is frequency that we give, so that they can within this plane as well. So offering, it is a gesture, it is an actual giving and or sacrifice unto our spirit world. Reflect connections of nature. Again, we Mecca babies, we urban babies, and so whenever we sometimes can get actually very suited to our encasings, to our rooms, to our apartments, to our inner safe dwellings, right? I tend to like to go on a lot of nature walks, but during this time, oh, you're not gonna do that to me, that wouldn't be nice, you know. During this time, excuse me, trying to give me a commercial, that's just nice. We're back. During this time, the cold, because I am definitely a child of Ra, it hinders my movement quite a bit, so I tend to stay in, but I like to incorporate the means of smoke, fire, these warm indicators, these igniters, to keep that inner sun on. And it's only a few months, you only need for a good few, cold months, but you need to stay ignited, you need to stay activated, you need to stay passionate and purposeful, because this is the time definitely you should be setting potent seeds to be harvested for those warm months that are meant for you to absorb and take in, yeah? So those are just a couple to-dos when you're coming before in ritual, when you're trying to get that true essence. It just takes a bit of that mind state to zone into that place, because it's definitely a place. It's not a place you can, maybe you can after a while actually. I've learned to kind of get there with a couple of breaths. It becomes easier of your pull into that place. So breath, spirit, she's a great igniter into place of ritual. You cannot go into that mind meditation, to that place, even with your music, without the spirit of breath. Yeah. Libations, fire, candles, reflection, connection. Those are some of the basics for your ritual, yeah? Let's see if there's anything else in the book I can speak to. And the ancestors. Another thing I actually would love to speak to in regards to your ancestral and your divine tribe. Please believe me, they are divine. They are holy. But family, they are you. So sometimes our talk, our conversation, it should always be on high, meaning high vibration, high reflection. But do not bite your tongue to speak to your spirit and your spirit guides as you speak. You understand what I'm saying? Don't bite your tongue for How far art thou? You know, because your spirit guides are your peoples. You understand what I'm saying? We are made in their reflection. I think sometimes we downplay our culture. We love to call it ghetto and or unrefined, yet everyone else plucks from it while they try to change our interpretation of it. And if you only knew that your divines are right next to you or just slightly on the other side of this veiled realm, Yawa, they there with you. What's good? You know, like, where do you even think you get the language? Our language, I've been here in a space to see transformations, and I give thanks for that. And language changes, train of thought changes, and that's no one else more than spirit. They speak the language before you speak the language. The only thing is that I must say is that sometimes on this realm, the interpretation, and that's the whole intent of it, the interpretation can get switched around, so you either don't know the power of what's being sent down to you or you're casting spell. So for those people who are in the know, they use those frequencies, but those frequencies come through spirit first. They come through you first. And honestly, sometimes we give up the codes to people who we perceive to have power, and those codes are used against us. So we have to be very mindful of the downloads and what is being given for us and to us and how it is used. You know, we may not realize because we don't realize the exchange of the physical and the spiritual world. But if we were to tap into that, we would spend more time with it. We would filter and give these things to and amongst ourselves, to our community, to our new breed, to our culture, and see how it filters out. If anybody comes looking for codes, for your knowings, for your talents, for your source, they want to use your frequency for their agenda. And we've been doing that at least since the beginning of time as we know it. Yeah, I think it's definitely time to change up the codes, to switch up the codes. I say that because it's not a far gone thought. It's not something that if you don't apply a good dose of common sense to it, we can't all see, right? So we need to come back to this thought. See your village for what it is. See your people in your community for what it is. You understand? We tend to see the stories for what they are. We're living out biblical stories that are right in your Bible right now. We are living out those times right now. You know, those things that we say, I would never let someone take my firstborn. I would never have that forced upon me. I would never. We're living in the time of the nevers, and because we don't have the eye to see, or we believe it was placed in another time and space, we are blind to the reality that we are the ones who are living out the revelations. We are living out those times right here and right now. And yes, we have blindly, under certain folds, given our power away and are living under another guise. So now is a more potent and powerful time than any, not only because it is time, not only because the veil is open to us, but because the ancestors, they say so. It's been prophesied as such, just like in your Bible. And we are here, and those with the eyes to see, yeah, the ears to hear, and the know to know. We are here. So ancestral bonds, it's very important now. It's very important for us, for you, for me, for we to know that, you know, our span goes more than just down south or just up north or just to auntie and them and just, you know, just to that grandma who we loved and kept that pillar together. We done lost some of those last Mohicans. I can tell you that. I've seen a grade of woman, grandmother, a certain kind of woman hierarchy. Her breed, her caste of breed is gone. It's gone. unless there are those who are there to claim it. I will not lie to you. I am one of those women because I come from a very ancestral tap. There's a lot of rememberings that we have let fall to the wayside, and if we don't have the rememberings with us, we cannot cast the spell of our future. We cannot cast that spell. And that's what's in our DNA. I was sent here for this. I was built here for this. And so were you. So are you. So are we. I am. So we have to learn how to become symbiote. We have to learn how to tap that spirit energy. They're giving us means of action, means of walk, talk, and spell right now in the codes. Even the planets, the skies, the DNA, all of it is being modified, it's being changed. All of this is divinely designed and divine timing. So I'm actually gonna take the time just before we close out to read. This is actually a seal. This is a 7th seal that I created. And this 7th seal is for breaking of bonds. 7 is not only a very close number related to me, it's followed me throughout my lifetime. It's also a number of creation, protection. 7th seal, breaking of bonds, spiritual, mental, and physical claim. I break all ties and bonds set, seen and unseen, that do not serve me and my legacy. I sever ties, lift heavy or cursed energy, and lift veils of untruths that bind me to this world. I reflect and recognize the divine and my tap to its source. I honor this place, honor self and our connect. I am bound by no man. I am one with the divine. I surrender to greatness, genius, and spirit. I cherish those who do the same. I call on true elevations, spiritual, ancestral, divine beings, collective. It is, we are, Mot it be, Dua, Amun, Ashe. I give thanks for my ancestors and angels. I give thanks for my guides and guardians. I give thanks for the divine seen and unseen. To my most honorable, benevolent, and ancient spirit council and higher selves, I give thanks to you. And as new breed culture here in this High.Priestess.Places, I ask that you always honor the goddess and honor the mother. Yeah? Yawa.